Hello, everybody. Could you for 2 minutes just talk to each other, the person next to you, and say, what is this? Oh, you have to answer the question as well, okay? Yeah. What is in the picture? Okay, please stop. Please stop. Thank you. Would you like, lady at the back, could you just say your name? Say your name right at the back. Suzanne? What do you think it is? Could you talk real loud? Oh, okay. Anybody be more precise?
It's called a mimeograph. It's technology from the 1950s and 60s. It uses a master to create, you can type on it or handwrite it. It absorbs fluid and it transfers itself onto paper so you can create class materials. It's like a printing press.
So I trained to be an English language teacher. My name is Marie-Therese, by the way. I trained to be an English language teacher in 1980. Okay, so 1980 is, to me, actually, 1980 is no time at all ago. And actually it's quite recent, isn't it, 1980? And what we used to do in our lessons, when you wanted to reproduce anything to give to the students, you used one of these machines. We used to call them Banda machines, or I understand they're also called Roneo machines. And what you did was you had a piece of paper, and you wrote on this paper, which one side was blue, one side was white. You wrote on it. So if you wanted to do a song, for example, with your students, first of all, you'd have to listen to the song about 100 times, line by line, so that you could write the words down in the song. There's no look it up on the internet and print off the lyrics. 15 million times till you've written it all down. Then you'd take the words that you'd written down and you'd write them on this sort of plastic bit of paper with a blue backing, and you write it out with your gaps, of course, because you're doing gap fill. And then you'd put it in this machine and turn the handle like this, and you'd print out how many ever you want. And look, this is an example, just hasn't come out very well, of a school magazine that somebody produced with this machine, churning it out. When you were finished, incidentally, because of the blue of the paper, and you touched your face, you would go into class and because you'd have blue streaks all over your face, it went all over your clothes. I'm showing you this because the reason I was asked to come and do a talk at Teaching House about of my choice. So I chose using digital tools so that I could learn something as well as you. So I apologize for my total incompetence in using digital tools before I even start. The first thing that you will need to do is to get on the internet. So I hope that you are all on the internet, and if you are not, please could you do that now? And here is the connection is if you don't want to use all your data. I'm sorry, if you I assume you have a cell phone. Who does not have a mobile phone in the room? Who does not have any digital device? Fantastic, thank you. That was a gamble, wasn't it? Fantastic. Okay, great. We won't need the internet just right yet, but just so that we're all on it when we need it. Outline of the aims of my session for this evening. I intend this to be in the form of a workshop. So we are together going to use some digital tools and share some ideas about how we can use them with our learners either in class or preparing for class. And I've divided the talk into kind of 4 sections. One, using pictures, using words and grammar, things that you can do with speaking, things that you can do with writing. And in the course of the evening, I think we'll talk about the pros and cons of digital tools, and maybe I'll ask questions if we have time at the end. The first activity we're going to start is talking about things to do with pictures. And so all of you have a mobile phone, cell phone, mobile phone. I'd like you to look at your mobile phone like this, like everybody looks at their mobile phone. And I'd like you to find a picture, your picture. A picture could be of somebody that you know very well, could be a friend, could be a member of your family. It could be a pet. It could be a place. It could be somewhere that you've been recently or that you've been in your life. It could be a building. It could be you doing something. A picture that you like. And Lizzie, would you possibly sit next to that lady, and could you possibly come and go sit someplace else so you don't talk to your wife? Thank you. I apologize. It's a kind of activity where, yeah, I don't mind where you sit. Choose somebody that's yeah, there you go. Fantastic. Thank you. So what do you imagine that you are going to do now?
Share our photos.
Fantastic. So please share your photos. And are only one of you going to be talking in this? Okay, so one's going to be explaining and the other one's going to be asking questions. Okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes just to do this activity. Thank you, everyone. I'm sorry if you didn't have time to share. Is this an activity that you would do with your students in class?
Yes.
Okay, why would you do it? Okay, but what would be the aim of your activity? What would be the aim of your lesson, or this part of your lesson?
Get them to speak.
Okay. Could you be a bit more specific?
Describing pictures.
Is that something you do in your everyday life? Okay, thank you. Okay, so it could be talking about family and friends. Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you.
Talk about themselves indirectly.
Okay, yeah. What kind of activity could it be? Okay.
Trauma, like setting context.
Fine. Okay. So maybe you want the students to get to know each other a bit. So it's a kind of getting to know you activity. A little bit actually. I can see a little bit of a parallel with Howard's first activity with the drawing of the picture. So instead of the drawing of the picture, we're showing a picture. So the principles remain exactly the same. You're not talking about yourself, you're describing somebody you know, your friend, your pet, or whatever. So all of you have a cell phone in your hand, and you have a photo that you have chosen of a family member or a friend or something. Yes? Okay, it's on your handout. I'd like you to go to that Padlet, that address on the left-hand side. And it's on your handout. You need to type it quite carefully, I'm afraid. When you're in, please raise your hand. Fantastic. So what do you imagine I'm going to ask you to do now? Thank you very much. So you'll notice there's a pink plus sign at the bottom. You'll need to click on the pink plus sign. A box will come up. In the middle of the box, there is something that says add an attachment. It's one of the icons. Okay, and then you choose a file. Oh, I know who that one is. Okay, is yours up? Can you see yours? Oh, it's loading, okay. Oh, Lola! Look, Lola! Who did Lola? I am. Did you do Lola? Who did Lola? Oh. Okay, so if I could have your attention again. So essentially, at the end of the, however long it takes for people to faff about, we end up with a board with all of the pictures that have just been shared in the room. For what purpose?
Talking about it.
Okay, so more talking about them, yeah? Can anybody think how they would kind of organize that in their lesson?
You can have
Ben, you want to try?
You could make groups.
You could?
You could make groups of similar subjects and then see what you could compare what was contrasting and what was similar.
Okay. Lady at the back was saying something? Fine. Yeah. Very basic in that way. Last week I used this activity with a new group of students that I'd not taught before. They knew each other and I didn't know them. So I did this activity, and then when they posted their pictures onto Padlet, they then tried to guess which picture belonged to which of their classmates. And we did a kind of find someone in the room type activity with them going up and saying, is your dog called Lola, type of thing. And so they tried to find out which, by guessing, but because they knew each other. So Padlet is a type of what? What is it equivalent to in the non-tech world? Say again, sorry? Absolutely, it's a pinboard or it's a wall. So can you think, we've talked about posting pictures on Padlet. Can you think what other things you might use Padlet for? Absolutely, yeah. Texts, if you want to share many texts with students. Maybe students have done some text for homework and you want them perhaps to share their work. So they would, in the same way as you posted your picture, they would post their Word document and they would make a wall of their homework. So this is Padlet. Padlet is a digital wall, I guess. There are a couple of other that I'm actually not going to have time to talk about, but I'll just mention. These are a couple of other types of walls. This is a website called Poster My Wall, and as you can see, I've made a poster full of bodies. There's body, and then there's body, and then there's body, and then there's, oh look, there's body. This is a kind of, students make posters in lessons where perhaps they've done project work. They can upload text, they can upload pictures. Is this an individual type activity, do you think? Students would do on their own at home? They could do, it could be stuff that they do at home, or it could be collaborative work that they do in the lesson. And hopefully it would generate quite a lot of language. And just, why does it keep, oh, okay. And so this is a few more body pictures. So there's body outside the Museum of Modern Art in New York. And there's body in Tokyo, and this body, and there's body again. And this is another digital tool called Photo Funnier. Again, it's on your handout. And you can insert any picture, choosing a template from a bunch of templates, and you insert it. Again, suitable for project work. Students decide what kind of framework they want. They decide where to put the photo, which photo to put, and so on. Okay, so that's kind of it as far as pictures go. I want to move on now to talk about things that you can, tools that you can use to do with words or grammar. So imagine that you're teaching, you have a B1 class. So B1 is like intermediate level. Is it intermediate or pre-intermediate? B1 is kind of pre-intermediate. So you have a pre-intermediate class and you're teaching vocabulary related to things around the house. Give me an example.
Sofa.
Give me another example.
Vacuum cleaner.
Vacuum cleaner?
Table.
Fine. Okay, so things around the house. And you do a kind of brainstorming thing like we've just done. And you're thinking, well, which ones shall I teach to my B1 learners? Which of these words would be suitable to teach them as new language? For 1 minute, turn to the person sitting next to you. There are 6 words on the board, each one belongs to, each one you would teach at a particular level. So which one is A1, which one is A2, and so on. Please talk to the person next to you, see if you can figure it out. I've displayed the answers on the board, so you can check. Please check whether your ideas match the answers. So, were you right? Were you right? You were right? Spot on? Were you right? So, okay. Okay. Does anybody want to ask me a question about this? Thank you very much. That's exactly the question that I wanted you to ask. How do I know? So, how do I know? The answer is vocabulary English profile, or English vocabulary profile, vocabulary English profile. This is a database, a corpus, a digital tool that has been. Did you invent digital tool? I wonder what the verb is. Develop. Thank you so much. So this is a digital tool that has been developed by Cambridge University, and it is a corpus. So, what is a corpus? Say it back again. Okay. So it was developed by the University of Cambridge using the exam papers, using the scripts, the answer sheets of candidates taking EFL exams. So people who took CET, PET, FC, CP, and so on, their papers were downloaded and evaluated, and the corpus has been developed using that data. This digital tool has been developed using that data. Exactly, accurately, at each level. So, shall we have a play? It's on the handout. Please go to vocabulary.englishprofile.org. It's here. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. With the tool, you can either search individual words, as you've probably discovered in your playing, or you can put in categories. So you can put in B1 clothes, and it will give you some ideas of what words might be familiar to learners at that level and what learners might not be. I think on a personal level, this tool has some uses in the kinds of things I've just described, but I'm not sure that when you're teaching lexical sets, for example, it's interesting, Lizzie and I were talking about this earlier, and you're more likely to want to tailor-make the vocabulary that you're teaching to your learners rather than to some kind of database. So, you know, whatever the interests and needs of your learners are, should really be driving the vocabulary you're teaching rather than a corpus or a digital tool. Also, it's quite random sometimes what word is a B2 word and what word is a B1 word when you want to teach a lexical set. However, I think it has uses in other ways. So this is a text. Please read it very quickly and tell me if you recognize it. And when you recognize it, tell me what it is. Can you say again? Okay, so it's the I have a dream speech. Is this a speech, Americans aside, is this a speech that you would possibly give your students as a reading task? No? Okay. Ben?
Yeah.
Okay, because?
It's famous, yes.
Okay, it's a maybe you have a topic. Yeah, maybe you have a topic to do with American culture or some equality, that sort of thing. Okay. Say again?
It has a very interesting structure.
Okay, thank you, fine. Okay, so again, imagine you have a B1 class. Maybe you're a relatively new teacher, perhaps. You have a B1 class. This text maybe is in your course book, or maybe you've decided to use it. What kinds of things do you need to think about in advance of using the text?
Obstacles to understanding.
So, obstacles to understanding.
Yeah, like words they don't know.
Fine, okay, so you need to choose which words maybe they won't know. Perhaps you might want to pre-teach some of them. Perhaps you'll want to be prepared to get them to do some, I don't know, guessing meaning from context or something of that nature. So there is a digital tool which actually is linked to a vocabulary profile that we were talking about just now called Text Inspector. Exactly. Monsieur Clouseau of, oh God. So what you do is you put the text in the text inspector, so you cut and paste it, just cut and paste it from your computer into the thingy, and then you press the submit button, and what it does is it analyzes the text. It tells you all of the words in the text that are A1 level, all of the words in the text that are B2 level, and so on. And so if you have a B1 class of learners, it will list the words they are likely not to know. So perhaps this is a more useful, especially for new teachers, way of using the English vocabulary profile. What I forgot to mention about English vocabulary profile is there is an equivalent, and you have it on your handout, called English grammar profile, which tells you, interestingly enough, I observed a lesson this afternoon and one of the teachers said, I didn't know whether upper intermediate learners would know this structure. English grammar profile will help you with that because it lists the structures that course books cover at various levels. So you would know, for example, that, I don't know, can is taught at A1 level. Can for ability is taught at A1 level. It also, this is the same text I had a dream that we looked at just now. It takes the text and it breaks it down into individual words. So it shows you which words in the text. So you can look at it this way, or you can look at it in the way we saw in the previous slide. It will also give you what you can't see very well here, is it gives you definitions of the words in the text. So this, for example, I've highlighted justice, which is a word from the text, and it will give you the meaning of the word as well. So that is Text Inspector. This is another digital tool that you might consider using with texts, and it's a tool called Word It Out, which is the next one on the list on your handout. I'll give you a few minutes just to have a look at the text, talk together about the two questions on the left-hand side of the slide. So where's the text from and what's it about? Please talk together about that. Talk to the person sitting next to you. Okay, can I get ideas?
You should know.
Okay, so
No, he doesn't say sad or bad or stupid or anything.
It would be a very big word.
can we share our ideas? Ladies at the back, would you like to say what you think? Can you talk real loud? That's really interesting. Okay, so the big words are the words that are repeated in the text. So going, just, truly, American, great, great again.
Well, just in case you missed it the first time.
So it's
I was right.
you were.
Well, let's.
Okay, so going back to the word cloud and the word it out. Again, this is I forgot to say right at the beginning, but all of these tools are free. They cost nothing to use for individuals. So often you're asked to put in an email account and a password, perhaps, or often just an email account, but they're all free. So once again, this is a very, very simple tool. You copy the text, you paste it in a box, and it produces that. From a language teaching point of view, we're talking here about reading, and we're talking about reading skills development. So what is the point of this from a language teaching point of view or a language learning point of view?
Just reading.
Okay. It is kind of gisty because the important words are coming. In terms of reading sub-skills, what might you be hoping to help the learners to do when they come to read the text next?
Predicting check.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so for me this is a kind of predicting activity where you get the students to predict what the text is going to be about by looking at some of the common
Where are
words.
they going?
Exactly, yes.
Going somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I just thought I'd show you this again so that you could go, wow, haven't we come a long way? Okay, so we're now going to look at a couple of examples of digital tools that you can use for kind of word games. Everybody used Quizlet before? Okay, so please could you go on to this website, the one on the left. We're going to learn some Dutch words. Howard, could you possibly share with Ben if you... Oh, my goodness. Oh, okay.
I just don't have photographs.
Oh, okay, okay. Again, it's on the handout. It's the first one. If you would go on to it doesn't matter actually, go on to either. Both are learning Dutch. Okay, so when you're in, this is... okay, so you'll notice that once you get in, you'll notice there are a number of buttons. You could start with flashcards. Click on that, see what happens, have a little tour around, and see if you can learn a bit of Dutch vocabulary to do with food. Try the flashcards first, because when you click on... There we go. And
Those are alternatives, right?
maybe that ladies will work.
It's a bit dead to believe. Very dead to believe. What's this?
Have you seen that table with all of them? Yeah. These are just
Does this other languages?
Thank you. Lizzie is going to tell you about Quizlet.
Am I?
Yeah. You like Quizlet because...
I love it because so I used to collect vocabulary from the group that came up over the week and put it into a bag and then review it with my students. But then when a new student joined the class, I was like, they don't know this stuff. So I used Quizlet to, not just for visual things like with the Dutch food, but with phrases, collocations, chunks of language that just come up in the lesson, and I don't want them to go. I want to, review them and to recycle them. So I put them on with a definition, and the students play games, and they sit on their tube, and they, in theory, and they play with the words, and they try and reuse and recycle them.
So Quizlet is a tool that you can use to revise, recycle vocabulary and grammar. You can make your own Quizlets, or there are bundles and bundles of Quizlets that you can recycle that other people have made. Just a word of caution, check that they're right, because sometimes the pronunciation might be a bit dodgy, might not, sometimes you have the phonemic transcript and it's wrong. So just to check them. But it's a way students can do this in class, or it's a way that Lizzie's talking about there of them revising and recycling when they get home.
Do you create your own set of vocabulary, or do you use the ones which are on the
You can do both, or either or both.
And it's very, very quick.
It's very, very simple, very, very simple, and it's free. Okay, a couple of digital tools to do with speaking. These are both voice recorders, and the theory, again, they are both free, and they are very simple to use. The one on the left-hand side can be used on any device. The one on the right-hand side, which is Vocaroo, can only be used on a laptop or a computer. It can't be used on a digital mobile phone. So if I say this is a digital tool where students can record their own voices very, very simply in an instant, how would you use that? Do you think that has any...
Intonation.
Yeah, but what would they end up doing? Where would they do this, do you think, this recording of their voice?
near the door of us?
No, in the toilet if they care about.
Okay, so they could do it in the toilet.
At home, you could do speaking homework.
Exactly. So instead of giving written homework, you give speaking homework. And once you've made your recording, the students can copy the URL and email it to you. So you can correct the homework by listening to their recordings, or you can bring their recordings into class and share them with the class, and the class can correct them collectively. Okay. On the handout, I'm going to skip through these two. On the handout, there are some websites for practicing speaking. Ship and Sheep, I'm sure you know the book. There is a website which again is free, pronunciation practice, and it's like the book, but they can hear examples of the pronunciation. There's also, I cannot commend it enough, a Macmillan website with Adrian Underhill talking about sounds and talking about how the phonemic chart was developed. And there are lots of practice activities there as well.
And the app.
And the app, absolutely. And there's an app that you can download. The last bit, I'm conscious that I have like 4 minutes left or something. So the last thing we're going to talk about are tools that you can do to use with writing. This is a digital tool called Edmodo. And it is, why don't you go to Edmodo on your... Okay, so if you go into edmodo.com, and then you'll be asked for a course code, if you could put in that. Join a group, and put in join a group, and then you'll be asked for a course code. Edmodo is like Facebook, and it means that you can have your own Facebook page with your class. So they can do all the stuff they do on Facebook in a group. So you can post pictures, you can post documents, They can chat, they can arrange to meet, they can discuss their homework, they can talk about boys, they can share links from their Facebook, and so on. It's probably just as well, actually, that we couldn't find it. But while we're on the subject of Edmodo, there is a guy called Russell Stannard who is who has a number of tutorials that again are free on using various digital tools. Russell Stannard, again, on the handout that I gave you, if you have a look at the back page, you will see it says ideas for training. And his website is listed here, and you'll find that almost loads of the things that I've done on this evening, I learnt from his website.
Can I ask one?
Yes, please do.
You say Edmodo is similar to Facebook. Obviously, I don't use it myself, but you create a Facebook group. The issue I have, because I'm designated safeguarding here, is to what extent there's any kind of safeguarding control on it.
I think it's a really, really good question, and I think it's something that you need to discuss with your learners. Edmodo is linked to Google and Google Docs, and I think they have some kind of joint ownership, and they have so I think it is regulated in that, but because it's not open to everybody. I mean, you couldn't get into it, could you? And that's my Edmodo page, and you can't get into my Edmodo page. It's not a thing that it's not like Facebook where anybody can accidentally happen upon it. It's a closed thing that it's just you and people that you invite or people that you give. Absolutely. And it's a really, really good point. And I think a lot of these things, you need to have a grown-up conversation with your learners about protocols and about best practice and things that you don't do and things that you do, because you can't have people being weird.
Also, why a Facebook group is not necessarily the best thing you can do.
Sure. Yeah. Maybe we'll say, are there any questions about?
How long did it take you to accumulate this list?
So Lizzie, when did you ask me to do this? I think it took me. It was
sort of early May.
Yeah. So I think maybe, and some of them I've used, and some of them I haven't. Some of them I've used myself, like the text inspector, and I've used English vocabulary profile, because actually I write. One of the jobs that I do is I write exams. I write TKT exams, and we have a level limit there that all the materials must be B1 or below, and so I use English vocabulary profile a lot for that purpose. And some of the others, for example, the getting to know you picture thing I used with my students last week. So some of them I've used, and some of them I've played around with. Yes, can you just tell me your name?
I'm Angelina.
Hi, Angelina.
Hi, I'm just curious, pre-digital, what would you have done? Pre-digital.
Strips of paper.
Strips of paper.
How would you classify the words according to B1, B2, and so on? How would you do it?
Yeah. Intuition, instinct.
I mean, we were kind of I was vaguely involved with something called the British Council Equals Core Curriculum Inventory, and we did that largely through intuition and consultation with practitioners and teachers. We got a bit of a kick in from English profile, but it was justified largely. but that was how we did it before. You've got practitioners together, you've got organisations like the British Council of Equals, and you've got people like me and Brian North and
Yeah.
Susan
Yeah.
Council.
I mean, we also had, before English Vocabulary Profile, for example, Cambridge English produced word lists. So, for example, you could, at the back of the PET handbook, there were word lists and grammar and functional lists of what.
There must have been pre-existing lists.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
really. I mean, people like Palmer and Hornby produced lists,
Yeah.
but they weren't based on anything in particular. They
Well,
got the intuitions of
yeah.
those individuals.
Yeah, but there was also research about the frequency of words. So, for example, that guy from the Westminster University, what's John? I can't remember his name.
Sinclair?
No, beginning with a L. He wrote a course book, and it was based on frequency of vocabulary. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So.
Just curious, because if you match your intuition with the actual listener,
Yeah.
would you be surprised yourself to see if there's any? Would there be any?
No, the intuition works pretty well, to be
There are
honest.
some
Yeah,
used.
yeah. Intuition works pretty well, and actually, when you use course books, I think you become people that write course books are very experienced teachers, and so they have that intuition and build it into the work that they do in the course books. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for your attention. So, my computer.